Dr. Norm Rosenblum and Dr. Alan Schwartz are joining us now to talk about the pediatric academic pipeline. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the issues currently facing the pipeline. Where do we start?
Well, maybe I'll take the first go at that.
Okay.
So the pipeline for pediatric physician scientists, for clinician scientists, is perhaps the most important part of how we approach the problems of pediatric health and disease. If we are not discovering the causes of pediatric disease, then we are not prepared to approach new applications. So the pipeline starts very early. It actually starts before people are pediatricians.
That's right. So what's happened in the modern age of pediatrics is that we have a revolution of biology happening at the same time as a revolution in the kind of science that we can apply to understanding how we take an understanding of how disease works and targets that could be used to treat disease to real-life treatment of disease and how this is going to be applied in populations. So we've really seen an explosion of both sides. And I think our challenge is to recruit young people into the pipeline and to nurture them very carefully as they experience what medicine, pediatrics, and scientific investigation is like, and determine how they can configure a career within an academic context to be able to deal with these issues. And of course, there are a number of challenges that relate to that, and Alan has great experience dealing with some of these challenges on the American side.
Yes.
So let me present just a few of the challenges.
Sure.
So if one thinks normally of medicine, one thinks about people beginning at the time they're in medical school.
Okay.
And while many have not thought about the issues of research and discovery and how one approaches that until medical school, many have started already at college, perhaps even before college. So learning about science and how to apply that to clinical medicine is something, in my view, that ought to start in high school and in college, and certainly at the latest ought to begin in medical school and pediatric residency. And there are challenges at each one of those steps. Let's choose residency as one critical junction. So in residency, the main goal of residency is to learn to become a pediatric specialist, to understand disease in the context of the pediatric patient and their family. Residencies are geared toward hard work, a lot of learning by experience, and residencies also don't provide a lot of time for what I would call creative reflection. And so one of the challenges we have today and going forward is how to stimulate young, unfocused minds and provide them a broader context about the disease processes they're thinking about. And that requires having mentors around, having time to think and process, and time to creatively experiment. And all of those are creative parts of the process. So residency is one time, before residency is another time, and then post-residency, as one becomes a specialist, is another time. Norm actually has a lot of experience with this series of stages in the Canadian system.
That was going to be my question. I was going to say, is it different? Because you did say on the American side, is it different when you're talking about Canada?
Well, it's a little different, but there's a lot there that is the same, actually. I led a Canadian program that has dealt with this for a long time, but I've also been very active in the Pediatric Scientist Development Program here in the United States, which has some interface with Canada as well, but is predominantly American-based and also deals with this in similar ways. And I think what I take from this is that this issue of mentorship is absolutely critical. It's providing an opportunity for trainees to get into a very different context than what they're used to be exposed to the very best science there is with people who have great experience in being able to mentor people in this, and also to place them in a programmatic context where their identity can develop in a very strong and positive way as physician scientists, and where they can learn the other professional skills that are needed beyond science itself to be able to thrive in a very complex environment, as it turns out, where highly competitive, You know, science is a very competitive marketplace, quite different than medicine actually in that regard, and also very intersectional. So science has become very multidisciplinary, cutting across many disciplines. People have to understand how to find their niche and also navigate across different kinds of niche areas in order to prosper. And so, you know, I think it's very important to have programs that are host to these trainees in these ways at different levels of their training in order to facilitate their success.
Very interesting. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for hosting us.
Of course.